The Gwangju Uprising is one of South Korea's major conflicts that was mainly initiated by students around the region who advocated democracy and went against the rise of the new regime led by Jeon Do-hwan and No Tae-woo. The rise of the conflict takes us back down to 1979, October 26, the assassination of the former president Park Chung-hee. This calls for an immediate end to the revitalizing reform regime that President Park had been ruling during the time.
On December 12, 1979, a coup d'etat rebellion, so-called the military insurrection of December 12, breaks through the temporary political void in authority, and along with the breakout, the nation's political force is immediately grasped by the time security commander, Jeon Do-hwan, and the members of his new army group, Shingun-bu. As the political force was overtaken by the new army group, without the acceptance of the new president, Choi Gu-hwa, the military regime spread rapidly across the nation. Starting the December of 1979, just like any other places in South Korea, the citizens of Gwangju were in the midst of enthusiasm for democracy and came into active protest, staggering around city streets in large collective groups. However, even amid intense opposition posed by the citizens, the commander, Jeon Do-hwan's dictatorship led its way, leaving the nation a non-democratic nation. As protests grew into wider magnitude throughout this so-called period of the Spring of Seoul, on May 17, 1980, Jeon Do-hwan, with members of his Hana committee belonging to the new army group, came to the ultimate solution of introducing the martial law, in other words, starting another coup d'etat. In his written proposal directed to the president, he requested for not only the expansion of the martial law, but also the implementation of the National Emergency Organization and the removal of the National Political Assembly. Operation titled The Splendid Vacation, Jeon Do-hwan proposed a martial law as a strategy to settle the ongoing crisis at the time, simultaneously securing his political reign. In his proposed martial law, he ordered to forbid any forms of political activity and conduct rigorous inspection of media to further prevent opinions that went against the regime from spreading. Citizens were eliminated with freedom as Jeon Do-hwan isolated Gwangju from other regions in South Korea, suspending transportation systems that led to Gwangju. More drastically, Jeon Do-hwan demanded the temporary closure of all universities in the region as a measure to ban university students conducting large-scale protests. I believe that this May 17th coup d'etat has an even more of a stronger trait than the coup d'etat of December 12th.
We intend to grasp authority from the middle of May. In order for this to happen, we have a need to plan a few years ahead.
These people, the people who wish to grasp authority, the people who were the cause of the coup d'etat of December 12th said, The official conflict commenced with the initial installation of airborne troops at 7 p.m. May 17, 1980. The city was soon filled with overwhelming intensity as soldiers marched in and settled down in specific locations where protests were commonly being held. As planned, on May 18th, as the clock hit midnight 12, Jeon Do-hwan announced a martial law to the public, as well as commanding to start school closures. Two main locations, the Jeonnam and Chosun University, where scenes of protests were easily witnessed, were completely surrounded by brigades. This enabled the troops to keep better control and capture the university students. Also, the people involved in unauthorized politics who actively stood up for democracy. The soldiers were our neighbors, our brothers, our sons. Suddenly, they all turned against us, causing, at first, fear. But that fear soon altered into fury and betrayal. How possibly can a nation's army, the Korean army, be so brutally killing the people of their own nation?
Even at the presence of the brigades, the Gwangju protesters insisted on peaceful protests. On May 18th, although school closure orders were given, students of the Jeonnam University assembled to the main entrance of the school. The soldiers located at Jeonnam University made an attempt to disperse the students, yet the conflict only grew larger as students became more rebellious every time the soldiers conducted merciless violence. The students' will towards democratic protest did not stop, and at last, they advanced into the urbanized city zone of Gwangju, progressing into further warlike conditions. The chaos of the event was intruding into not only protesters, but also the lives of normal citizens during the time. Anyone who displayed opposing political views and involved them into protests were mercilessly hit and at last shot or captured by the soldiers. Although the exact statistics as to how many people died at this event still remains a question, many families had to encounter unexpected deaths of their beloved ones. Today, many footages still show families gathered around the mortuaries, where all the dead bodies were stored in coffins covered in the South Korean flag, grieving over the death of their beloved one.
Peaceful protests were long forgotten, and towards the brink of the event, also dubbed the 10 Days of Riot, normal citizens of Gwangju who were in possession of weapons such as guns or knives started turning into so-called citizen troops. The citizens had made an evocative decision of controversy. However, this was considered the only feasible way to combat the ruthless acts of the army troops.
Unarmed people were trying to march through the streets, and in such a situation where everything was bombarded, we just had to keep guns to ourselves for survival. Everyone wants to escape death, so it's actually just a human instinct to carry a gun in such a situation.
The power of the citizens were far influential than expected, and retreated the brigades on May 21st, celebrating over the joy of independence until May 27th, when the martial law army group came for another bombardment attack at the Jeonnam province.
There was a person who exposed the horrors of the Gwangju Uprising out into the world. He was Jürgen Hinspeter, a German reporter who was brave enough to willfully step into the scene of chaos to record all events happening. Often addressed as the witness with blue eyes, Jürgen Hinspeter willingly stepped into many scenes of chaos to witness and share with the world. He was led by a taxi driver known as Kim Sa-bok, and while he was on the verge of losing his own life, he sacrificed what he had for the footage that made peace for Gwangju during the time. Even if he knew that if he were to be caught by the soldiers, he would be killed or was tortured, Jürgen Hinspeter believed that the revelation of truth was even before his own survival.
As the security commander, Jun Do-hwan, received news about Jürgen Hinspeter recording the truth about the ongoing crisis of Gwangju, he immediately sent out an order to take hold of all foreigners attempting to leave Gwangju at the moment. However, even some of the soldiers following Jun Do-hwan's lead were not completely agreeing to these consequences the nations of people were facing. The misery that they were bringing to the people they had to protect, the deaths that the citizens had to face, caused by the soldiers' hands. The taxi driver, Kim Sa-bok, and the reporter, Jürgen Hinspeter, with some help from the taxi drivers from Gwangju, were able to reach Seoul without having lost the footage that saved the lives of thousands.
The government is trying to blame so-called communist agitation for most of the violence here. That way, officials don't have to face the fact that it was resentment against the martial law government and the original harsh reaction by the military.
During the year 1996, Jun Do-hwan and No Tae-woo's trial took place, leading Jun Do-hwan to face execution and No Tae-woo to be imprisoned for 12 years due to their regrettable past actions. However, due to a special remission, they were both able to gain freedom earlier, therefore ended up staying in jail for only 2 years, which definitely was not equitable for the lives they killed from the Gwangju Uprising.
It is undeniable that the Gwangju Uprising set foot for the lead of democracy that voiced today's Korea, including many other societies in the world.